So go ahead and give me a deep dive on how do you feel about making your latest video.
Okay, NPR. Anyway, yes, I did it. And this one is my favorite just because obviously it's about being black. And I haven't really made it clear in my narrations that I'm black. So, ta-da, I'm black. But making it was really cool because I got to deep dive in music I didn't know, unfortunately. I came to hip hop during like the backpack hip hop rappers like Kanye and Kid Cudi and Lupe Fiasco. So I didn't ever get into early golden era hip hop, especially based out of New York. And so it was really fun to like listen to some of those old heads. But you know a lot more about hip hop. So what's some of your early golden era favorites?
There's a litany of rappers I could say that are my favorites, based on, Rakim, Nas. But I think as opposed to saying which rappers are my favorite, I think it's more so just to bring about my favorite qualities of the golden era of hip hop, which is, despite, its violent inclinations and images, it was a very much more positive hip hop era than what we are experiencing contemporary. I would say it was a lot more colorful hip hop era as well. And just the variety of, I guess you could say, rapping styles and patterns, intonations. You had a lot more musical variety within hip hop in this quote unquote golden era.
Yeah, that's what I picked up in my research. It was so cool. And some of them were like complete dorks, and it was awesome. Like they just were total geniuses who just seemed like they were a bunch of kids who were like, after school, let's just like make weird art. And it was so cool to see.
Yeah, it's funny, we call it golden era of hip hop, when I think the more appropriate term is just to call it the early indie movement, which it was. It was a lot of independent, a lot of just strange, quirky characters who appreciated the beats and rhymes of hip hop and wanted to make their own. And so you had all this quirkiness bubbling to the top within that early 90s, late 80s period.
Yeah, it's so crazy to think that hip hop started there and became what it was when I knew it, which was in the early 2000s. It was completely different.
Yeah, and to be fair, hip hop has always had those, violent, misogynist sides to it. It was just that was simply one part of the pond. Whereas, going into the future with the corporatization of hip hop, we can see that hyper masculine, hyper violent imagery become the entire pond, so to speak.
Yes, I mean, to be fair, that hyper masculinity is just being American. It's in cowboy culture, it's in country music, it's in rock music, it's everywhere. But yeah, you see a more diverse opportunity for black men to just be weird or be unique or eccentric, or if they want to be violent, they can be, but that's just one option versus much later it seemed like that was the only option.
Yeah, and to sprinkle some positivity on it, we're kind of having a moment like that with hip hop now, where the more quirky you are, the more your higher chances you are to succeed. So we're seeing a little bit of the patterns start to rhyme with the golden age of hip hop and our contemporary age of hip hop.
I know, it's awesome. And not to say that in the 2000s there weren't interesting characters rapping either. There were.
Yes.
Okay, so to pivot, I obviously know a lot more about the Black Megachurch than you, having grown up in one, and similarly to how you know more about black or just hip hop in general more than me. Like, what did you learn after watching it? Did you learn anything about Megachurch, or did you see any similarities to hip hop to Megachurch at all?
Well, I thought the fascinating thing about the Black Megachurch was how tied it was to the white megachurch, which I think is fair to say about every major billion-dollar industry in the United States. There's a black real estate market, there's a black, musician, executives, or some other black capitalist enterprise. It's most likely tied to a white capitalist enterprise that makes more money or just as much money as the black version. And so in the case of the Black Megachurch, I think the most fascinating part to me was seeing the role the great Oral Roberts played in the foundation of the Black Megachurch, and how he sort of gave a green light to the Black Megachurch to succeed, and just how much difficult and albeit impossible it could be for Black megachurches to form without the blessing of a white, megachurch pastor of Oral Roberts statue, not just some other white guy off the street.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't know that either, and I went to Oral Roberts University and grew up in a black megachurch. But his influence, or I guess deference toward black churches, always made him seem like he was like progressive for white megachurches, because he like integrated the schools way early on before any other Christian university did. So he seemingly kind of gave off this vibe of progress and inclusion. Yeah. Although there was like, if you really pull out and zoom out, you can see that there's still an innate subjugation that the black pastors have to him. They have to defer to him and answer to him, similarly to how a lot of women ministers have to answer to their male counterparts.
It definitely feels like a ladder of paternalism going on with Oral Roberts and other white megachurch pastors, and their seeming elevation over the black megachurch pastor. And I guess that's also a mimicry of the wider capitalist apparatus. For every black billionaire that you find, how many times they brag about, having power and authority, you can always find a white billionaire who can step on him.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that is fascinating.
And of course, it's also in hip hop. Dre and Jimmy is one that I feel like is a clear example that reminds me of Carlton and Oral, where, Jimmy was right there helping Dre with the beats. And, I think Jimmy Iovine kind of feels that he's some sort of fatherly figure to Dre, sponsor his green light, his white guy.
Yeah.
And, this is in sports too. I think of, what's the boxer?
Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson and that white old guy that sponsored him.
Even Muhammad Ali, he had his first sponsors were 5 white men.
Yes. I mean, this is all throughout sports.
Yeah, all throughout.
And anywhere there's a black man that's successful, there's probably a white guy standing behind and claiming that he discovered him. It's a land. So to kind of conclude our chat, because I don't want to get too long, what do you think about my comparisons and I'm bringing it to this moment of questioning, these things are regaling themselves or naming themselves, black culture, right? They're not just a capitalistic, conglomerate as we see it, but they are what it is to be black. Both of them claim it. And I would argue most black people, including myself, have some identity pieces ingratiated in both entities, as someone who grew up in a megachurch and also someone who grew up around hip hop. So what do you think of that? Do you think, can we extrapolate our identity from it and see the pieces that are black to the capitalistic nature of it? And I don't know.
It's funny when we talk about it in this context and in this conversation, when we say the word black culture, it feels so much like a commodity when it comes out of their mouth, when they say that they are the practitioners, they are the leaders of black culture, whether it be in hip hop or religion. It feels so much as if black culture is this commodity that they are, I guess you could say gatekeeping, so that they can maintain a sort of hierarchy within that space of black culture. And it feels like, it's sort of like a factory that if you leave or try to leave, you're shunned from the black community, or, you don't practice our Christianity, you don't listen to our form of hip hop, therefore you are not black. So it feels like a very much not a control mechanism, but it feels like maybe, I guess, discipline mechanism to punish those who wish to be outliers to their certain brands of Christianity or certain brands of hip hop that don't reflect them.
Totally. It's totally a reflection that something's toxic. And usually when something's toxic as a buzzword on the internet, really it's capitalistic or predatory, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, honestly, looking at this and researching this more, it's so much more of a relief as a black person to go, yes, I don't necessarily know this specific type of hip hop or relate to it, but I am still black, you know?
Exactly.
And the same thing about church, there's probably lots of Christians. I touched on LGBT as an example of feeling outliered from the community. They can still be a black person who's a Christian if they so choose. because the idea of Christianity and, this megachurch landscape is, make believe. It's a construct of capitalism. So yeah, I think almost it's relieving to know how free your Black identity can be when, there's these rigid things going, this is how you're Black.
Yes, and I think it's even great now that we see, in terms of hip-hop, it feels as if Black people are sort of leaving hip-hop behind. Or maybe hip-hop is leaving us behind. I don't know. But there definitely seems to be like a natural separation. Mm-hmm. It's not as if, and it's not as if I feel like Black people are even embittered about leaving hip-hop. I feel like it's sort of like a stage of like, it was nice then and we don't need it now. And I feel as if it's only a matter of time before Black people feel the same way about megachurch Christianity.
I was just going to say the same thing is starting to happen. And, obviously there's always a force of faith within our culture. But I do notice that younger millennials and even Gen Z are more critical of the things they see in the megachurch than they were before.
I would love to see the numbers on Gen Z and their connection to I guess not just the megachurch but organized religion in general, because it feels as if absent of extremely collective traumatic events, the Black church has lost the vocabulary and the personal touch to reconnect with younger people. And I think the same thing can be said about corporate hip-hop, is that they've lost touch with young people. They still think a rapper who killed 30 people. I mean, I guess rappers who kill 30 people still do sell, but I think there's they've completely missed the mark on how a Lil Nas X can never rise in a corporate hip-hop environment, because he's almost antithetical to what they thought was a successful rapper.
Yes, completely.
Or Steve Lacy. He's not even hip hop, but they would see him and try to package him into a hip hop product, fail, and then come out with some half-born fake thug that everyone will see through. So I feel it's funny is this, we're living through sort of like the, not demise, but definitely...
definitely demise.
Okay.
When you think of Puff and T.D.
Yeah,
Puff,
yes.
P. Diddy, whatever, and T.D. Jakes.
Yeah.
It's, who knows? But even, so I'm not going to get into like what is and isn't true because we don't know. But what I do think is crazy is that the rumors of itself are occurring and not going away.
Yeah.
And like both of them have done, quite theatrical things to like negate the rumors, but it doesn't seem to land, and the rumors fester in a way that they would have never festered even just 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I believe it's also funny how, I'm not sure about T.D. Jakes, but Puffy is a dude who rumors have followed him since Biggie was killed. So that's literally 20 years of rumors following you, and each rumor seems to get worse and worse. I'm not saying that this particular action is bad or say, but it's crazy that every rumor that follows him just escalates this notorious shadow aura around Puff.
Well, whenever there's secrecy, there's probably predatorial stuff, and so I think it is bad. I think that also the hypocrisy of it is, at a forefront, and both of them have been predators in their own right, using Black culture and Black people to get branding and hoard a bunch of wealth for themselves, to do all sorts of things potentially sexual in nature, but they still I think that this time their image has crumbled as if people that we can tease and laugh about in a way that they're not revered in any way. And I think P. Diddy's kind of been a joke for a while, but I would say that still, like, even 15 years ago when rumors cropped up about him, it seemed like he could just like change his name and then reinvent himself and be like, I'm this moniker now, so see me like this, and I'm just going to keep making millions.
That's absolutely correct. I don't think they could run from the spotlight that is social media, the internet, and a generation who loves paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. I just wanted to do a little after talk of this video because it was really fun to make. Thanks for chatting with me.
No, thanks for having me.